Oh, it's time for class.
Class is in session!
Roll call! Bueller?
I'm gonna be late for class.
Bueller?
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?
I'm late for class.
You're mine now. You belong to me.
Did you study for the test?
No more complaining. No more Mr. Kimbley to go to the bathroom. Nothing. There is no bathroom.
Hello, classmates, and welcome to another episode of Middle Class Film Class. I'm your host for today, Pete, on another solo venture for some, I guess all we're going to be doing is streaming picks.
Movies.
Wanna watch a movie?
Yes, indeed.
Disney Plus, HBO Max.
If I don't get the pick, show's over.
I have grown accustomed to Hulu Plus.
Amazon Prime.
I like Netflix.
You found the pick.
Stream picks, movies that we watched on our streaming services, or I guess I did, this week that you can watch on yours too. So again, if you didn't watch the first half or listen to the first half this week, I'm flying solo. Joseph and Tyler are sick. Tyler was out sick last week, and he's still not 100% better, and Joseph has descended into some sort of congestion, body ache, head cold sort of hell. So I'm still here, and if you didn't watch last episode or listen, I gave you a rundown of a lot of my favorite physical media pieces from my collection, from various types: Blu-ray, 4K, box sets, VHS, even a vinyl record from our pal David Rosen from Piecing It Together and Awesome Movie Year. So that was fun. Go listen to that. There's some interesting stuff, some good stuff, some people you probably never even knew were still releasing VHS, like Witter and Broke Horror Fan and Raven Banner. So a lot of fun stuff there. So for right now, I am going to be going over the movies that I watched this week that are worth your time. So if you don't have Letterboxd, you should go get Letterboxd. It's an app, basically a social media movie watching app for movie aficionados. That's where me and Joseph, and to a lesser degree Tyler, all basically log our movies that we watch so we can look back at them at a later date and kind of give a concise idea of what we watched. And you can give a rating, give a review, or not, or just log them that you just saw them. From this last week, I'm just going to go in order. This isn't from best to worst or anything. This is just in order that I watched them. So first off, streaming on Paramount Plus is where I watched it, but you can also watch it on Fubo and Kanopy. It's a comedy, kind of a comedy sci-fi. I guess it's just more of a straight up comedy called Extraordinary from 2019. Excuse me. And this is directed by Mike Ahern and Enda Loughman, who I'd never heard of before, but it's starring Maeve Higgins, who's Australian. This is an Australian production. Barry Ward and Will Forte. So this is about a driving instructor who is, she's like Claire, she can speak to the dead, and she has to use her otherworldly gifts to save a lonely man's daughter from a rock star looking to use her for satanic purposes. And Will Forte plays this washed up pop star. He's more of a pop star than a rock star. He's like a one-hit wonder guy, and he has this ridiculous song that's gets stuck in your head. And he's no longer famous, and he basically sells his soul to the devil to get famous again, to win it back, his fame and fortune. And his like romantic interest / the woman who is kind of also in his like flock or his cult or whatever is her name. She's played by Claudia O'Doherty, and she is another great Australian comedian. Hey, thanks, Dallas. See you later, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. But she's another great Australian comedian who was on the TV show called Love with Paul Rust and Gillian Jacobs. And she's really funny. She's a smaller part in this, but she's great. And this kind of feels like something that would be, there was a spin-off show from the What We Do in the Shadows movie called What We Do in the Shadows. And then there was a spin-off show from that called Wellington Paranormal, which is like a New Zealand-based police officer group that is almost like an X-Files type group where they deal with the paranormal. And it's vampires and werewolves and ghosts and things like that. And it's very cheeky and very fun and kind of goofy and, you know, not too heavy lifting. That's pretty much in the vein of this. But Will Forte's being his ridiculous self. He's playing a character that's super fun. And Maeve Higgins, she plays Rose Dooley, who's like the main character. whose dad was a clairvoyant, and she is too, but she just doesn't want to do it anymore because it caused too much problem in her life than it was worth. And she's the main character. But this is really fun. The poster is something I scrolled by a million times, and Brianna wanted to watch it finally, and it's not amazing, but it is a very fun watch. So it's a good like weeknight movie with, you can watch this with the kids, maybe the slightly older kids. There's some sexual stuff, jokes in it, but nothing like overtly like physically shown. It's just kind of like an out of nowhere, very hard-edged joke that is kind of off the beaten path from the main tone of the movie, so it's more like kind of shock sort of a thing. But yeah, so that's Extraordinary, streaming on Paramount Plus and Fubo, where I watched on Paramount Plus. Next to one was a movie that I got as a gift from listener of the show, my Aunt Linda. And she gifted me this movie called Double Indemnity from 1944. So we had her on the show talking about, what movie was it? It was a Humphrey Bogart movie where he plays the villain. Can't remember the name of it now, but entertaining, good, interesting. She is my like kind of hookup for classic silent era black and white movies and classic noirs and classic, really anything like classic Hollywood, pre-code era, mid-code era. And she gave me this movie, Double Indemnity, 1944. It's streaming right now in the Criterion collection. I just watched it on DVD. You can rent it for like $4 on YouTube or anywhere else. But this is a very, very, very classic, almost prototype noir. And it has Fred McMurray and Barbara Stanwyck as the main two. Edward Jean Robinson also is in this as a smaller part. And the tagline says, a rich woman and a calculating insurance agent plot to kill her unsuspecting husband after he signs a double indemnity policy. So double indemnity is basically on a life insurance policy in the rare event that you have a very rare type of death. The policy pays double. So in this case, it's falling off a train is the thing. So they essentially, this insurance agent goes to sell a car insurance policy or re-up a car insurance policy to this man, and he's not home, but his like stay-at-home trophy wife is, and she's seducing him, and he's kind of coming on to her, and they're both kind of scumbags. And then they decide to sign him up for a policy without his knowledge, forge his signature, and then kill him to get the money, and then split the money, and then they're going to run off together in the sunset. And of course, there's a double cross, and then there's another double cross, and it's an interesting sort of cat and mouse sort of thing with the insurance agent who's trying to prove that it's a fraudulent case. And in doing so, it's not just proving that they don't have to pay out this double payout, but they're also proving that this was basically a murder. They actually think it goes back and forth between thinking it's a suicide and a murder. So it's really interesting, and it's dripping with style. It's dripping with that classic Hollywood way of talking, and he constantly infantilizes the woman, even though he's, trying to basically take her as his next conquest. Calls her baby at every single sentence. It's, "Don't worry, baby, we're gonna get away with this, baby." And there's a lot of great shots in this that are just done by the great Billy Wilder, directed by the great Billy Wilder. So, you're imagine that the shot composition is fantastic. The setups for everything is great. There's a scene near the end where the main character of Walter Neff is the guy's name, and he comes into her house, and it's nighttime. The scene is lit by fire, and he comes in the door in like the background, and his shadow enters the room before him. This great silhouette of him with the fedora on and, the big broad shoulders, and he walks in. And then she essentially turns on him, has got the gun out and shoots him or whatever. And it's like, it's a great movie. This is about as classic as you get for classic Hollywood when you're talking about that detective noir double cross sort of thing. So again, Double Indemnity from 1944, directed by Billy Wilder. This is streaming on the Criterion channel if you have that. Next up, movie that I watched on Amazon Prime. This is starring, let's see here, Ed Helms, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, Jake Johnson, Hannibal Buress, Isla Fisher, Rashida Jones, Leslie Bibb, and a couple other people you might recognize. This is called Tag, T-A-G, Tag. And this is a story based on a true story, which is bizarre, about a group of friends, childhood friends, that have been playing the same game of tag for 30 years. And for the month of May, every year, tag is live. And they will essentially find each other in life wherever they are. If one of them moves out of town or out of this area and they lose contact or whatever, they're still going to go find the person and tag one of their friends. And it's like there's 5 of them. It's Jeremy Renner, Hannibal Buress, Ed Helms, Jake Johnson, and John Hamm. And they're in various states of their life. Some of them are very successful. Some of them are like mysterious and like elusive. Some of them are just living their life and trying to cope. And all of a sudden you might find your friend, he's dressed up as in a different outfit, and he catches you on the golf course and tags you. And you're like, oh shit, I'm it. And you can't just tag him back. You have to tag somebody else. So now it's like you have to go out and find your other friend. So the Angry Otter signs off. Tag is such a fun movie, or great movie, he says. And it is. This is a really fun movie. Way better than I was expecting. Probably 3.5 star movie. Maybe even more if you're in the right mood, but it's way better than you would expect. And I almost feel like I don't know when Jeremy Renner became an action dude. I know he already had the Hurt Locker in like 2011 or something like that. And then The Town in 2012, I want to say. But I don't know when he made it to Marvel, like a proper action star. But this was in 2018, so it had to have been after all that. But he fits the part really well because he is the guy who has not been tagged once. Of all their friends, he has not been tagged once. So they're like, Jerry has never been tagged. This is the year we're going to tag Jerry. And Ed Helms says, I'm going to quit the game, but we got to tag Jerry. And he is like untaggable. Like he plans for it. He has exit routes planned. He doesn't do anything during the month of May unless he basically has a way to get out and to avoid being tagged. And sure enough, something happens and he's actually getting married in May. His new bride-to-be, every woman in her family has been married in May for their entire lineage or something like that, and she has to do it, and she understands the game and blah, 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 but she's going to do it in May. So they form a truce. No tagging at the ceremony, no tagging at the rehearsal dinner, but everything else is open game. And the stakes get higher and higher and higher in this, and the subterfuge and the kind of trickery at play to be able to tag one of the friends is so interesting and fun. I was really, really, really kind of shocked by how fun this was and good this was. So this is one you can just kind of turn your brain off. The stakes are very low, and the message is surprisingly good. I won't say exactly what the message is, but it is schmaltzy and cheesy, at the heart of it all. But I think the message is pretty good about friendship and, what it means to stay in touch and the things you do and that kind of stuff. And at the very end, they show the real life guys playing tag. And it's really interesting because they're all like fully grown middle-aged men. So that's really fun. So that's Tag from 2018. That's streaming on Amazon Prime. Very accessible. Next up is a rewatch for me. A movie that Joseph and I did a review on early last year, early in the YouTube days, starring Jason Statham, The Beekeeper. So Jason Statham has done The Mechanic. He's done The Beekeeper. And now he's doing a movie called A Working Man, where he's just a guy. He's just a working stiff. He's going through all these different trades to be. He was the transporter before that too. He's taking all these like working man jobs and turning them into like action stars. And Beekeeper was super fun in theaters. I want to say I gave it 3.5 in theaters, and I gave it 4 stars just on this last rewatch. It knows 100% what it is. It is very fun. It is a really good time. And Jason Statham is one of these guys that does this almost the same character in every movie, and it never gets old. So if you disagree with that statement, you're not going to like The Beekeeper. If you agree with that statement, go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. It is a lot of fun. My only critique about the movie, well, I got two. Number one, Angry Otter says, Jason Statham's next movie after that, Just a Dude. Number one, my first critique with the Beekeeper, not enough bee puns. There are plenty of bee puns in this movie. I could use like double or triple the amount of bee puns. There's a number of times where somebody says something like, what are you going to do? I protect the hive. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cute, kind of fun. And then he makes a lot of allusions to how bees operate as a society and how that, correlates to the task at hand, and how he's gonna be a queen killer and take down the queen who's got a defective offspring or whatever. And it's like, it's super goofy and dumb and fun. But I could have used more of those bee puns. My other critique with the movie is that there are two very cool villains. There's also, what is his name? Josh something or other. What the hell is his name? Josh, let me look him up here. He's from the Hunger Games and Five Nights at Freddy's. Josh Hutcherson. He also plays a douchebag, like lead villain sort of guy. And he's good, very hateable in this. But the two like over the top villains in this is this other assassin beekeeper woman who attacks him at a gas station. And it's just like full on, all out John Wick times Smoking Aces divided by Kate. That energy. I could have used more of her. She's in one scene and then she's quickly removed from the scene. And then there's another villain at the end whose character's name is Lazarus. And he is so freaking cool. He's, I want to say South African. He's playing South African in it. So I don't know what he really is. His the actor's name is Taylor James. Apparently he's British. Yeah, he's British, but he's playing a South African, and he's great. He's so great in this. And he's another one where he's only in like one or two fight scenes, and then he's gone. I'm like, man, I could have used him for like the entire movie. He could have been the main protagonist. I want a Lazarus prequel for this movie. So freaking cool. So anyways, that's The Beekeeper on Amazon Prime. A great PSA for phishing scams. Angry Otter says, a good Josh Hutcherson movie that's just as silly is called Detention. I don't think I know that one. Let's see here. Detention. 2011. Josh Hutcherson, Shanley Caswell, and Spencer Locke. As a copycat killer named after the movie villain Cinderella stalks the student body at Grizzly Lake High School, a group of co-eds band together to survive while surfing detention. Oh, I've seen this cover before. Looks interesting. 5.6 on IMDb. It could be a disaster. Could be fun. All right, I'll add that to my watch list for you. Okay, next up that I watched this week, streaming on Max, is a new release movie from 2024 called Your Monster. And this is another one that's quote unquote based on a true story. That's clearly not really based on a true story. It's just like a person had a breakup. It was a really bad breakup. And then the rest of it's all fake and made up for the movie. But basically the plot of this movie is that this woman, she gets cancer. She goes through treatment and surgery. And while she's actively in cancer treatment, she's in New York, Broadway performer. Her boyfriend / director of this new upcoming movie, showrunner, breaks up with her during her cancer treatment and basically says, I need to focus on myself. You need a full-time care person, and I can't be that person. Total douche nozzle, just a total dickhead. And the main character in this, Melissa Barrera, plays the woman who has cancer. And then she gets out of the hospital and is like basically starting her life over with a fresh breakup of this long-term relationship and trauma from basically just nearly escaping death from this cancer. So when she comes home, she hears a noise in her closet, and there's a monster in her closet played by Tommy Dewey. Tommy Dewey, who also is in a movie that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And this actor, he plays the monster. He is so fucking charismatic and charming. that he makes the whole movie. And to be honest, Melissa Barrera is great in this. Like, I was not a huge fan of her in the Scream series, but in this, she's very good. She's charismatic and magnetic, and she's sympathetic, all those things. But the monster is super, super charming. And he is her childhood monster. He is the monster that's lived in her closet for her whole life. So he knows all about her, and he like follows her and cares about her and stuff. But in all reality, he just wants her out of the house because he likes living alone. That's basically it. And he essentially becomes this friend that she needs in this tough time as she continues with the Broadway production that her ex is running. She gets a part in the show. And of course, that's not good. That's not healthy for the two of them in their non-relationship. And as you can imagine, she starts falling in love with the beast, and things happen, and it takes some turns, and it went in places that I didn't really expect. But ultimately, this was really good. This was really good. And this is sweet. It's charming. It's heartwarming. It's really funny. It's way funnier than I was expecting. And it's like the concept sounds bad. It sounds kind of cheesy. It's like, it could be interesting, but this could be cheesy. And it's good. It's really good. This is the good one. So this is streaming again on Max. You can watch this with your parents. You could watch this with your kids of just about any age. Maybe not really little kids. They wouldn't really understand a lot of the relationship stuff. But, 12 years old and up, or maybe even 10. I mean, it's not scary. It's really not sexually inappropriate so much. I mean, there's a little bit of sexuality or whatever. But all in all, it's just a really good movie. So it came out last year. I heard good reviews about it, but really not a whole lot of people talking about it. And I watched it with Brianna, and it was great. So check that out on Max. All right. I'm not going to talk about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I watched that on physical media. I have a 4K of that. It is on MGM Plus, but it's a fantastic movie. The editing, the production design, and just the vision of it all is so freaking good. So if you haven't seen it yet, watch it. If you have already, watch it again. It's great. Next up, I watched The King from 2019, a Netflix-produced movie starring Timothée Chalamet. Also has Joel Edgerton in it in a kind of a main role. Sean Harris, Tom Glyn Carney, who you'd recognize but probably don't know the name. Lily Rose Depp, Thomasin McKenzie, Robert Pattinson, and Ben Mendelsohn. And Robert Pattinson plays an insane French prince. And Timothée Chalamet plays the King Henry. I think it's King Henry VIII or something like that. Henry V, maybe. And this is a beautifully produced movie. It's a really, really great looking movie that unfortunately is just kind of dull in a lot of places. And then it has some really fantastic scenes. So as I was watching it, I kept thinking to myself, man, if I was British, I'd be loving this, because it's like all these characters are historical figures to me that I don't have any connection to. I feel like if I was British, I'd be like, oh shit, that's Woodrow Wilson beating the shit out of fucking Alexander Hamilton or something like that. But in reality, it's, King Henry V beating up some Duke of Earl or some shit like that. And it's like, I don't know these people. I don't really care. So all in all, though, the movie is great. It's a little long. It's 2 hours and let's see if I can get the actual runtime here. I want to say 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 35 or something like that. Didn't feel that long, surprisingly, for how, for what I just said, because every scene has great costume design, great set design. The cinematography in it is fantastic. It's directed by David Michaud or Michaud. I'm not sure. It's Michod, but the O's got like a carrot on top of it or whatever. Who directed The Rover, which I really love, with Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson and Scoot McNairy. That one is like post-apocalyptic Australian outback. I think it's in the Australian outback. And I won't say what the name The Rover means, but Guy Pearce is on a mission and he runs into Robert Pattinson, who plays kind of he's slow. He's mentally not all there. And I think this is one of the earlier movies that I saw Pattinson in and thought, okay, yeah, he's good. He's not just a Twilight guy or a Harry Potter character. He's really good. That's from 2014. But The King, 2019, really good. I'm not a fan of Pattinson's accent in this. His accent and work in this is pretty rough. It's like a comic book almost, which is funny because Chalamet speaks French. He is French, I think, and he could be doing the French stuff, but obviously then he wouldn't be the lead character. And it's also, there's a lot of great hand-to-hand combat in this movie. And then the other thing that I think is interesting is that all of these kind of like lords and stuff historically were very young, and they cast a bunch of young people for it. So these like hand-to-hand combat between like the Lord of this land and the new king and stuff are basically kids that are like 21 or under. You know, I think they're supposed to be 17, 18 or whatever, but they're young guys. And all like the peasants around them basically there to support, and you know, if there becomes a battle or whatever, they're there. But it's like these young freaking kids leading these armies, which is, I guess, accurate. So that's The King, streaming on Netflix. It is a Netflix production, so it'll probably be there for a while. And then the last movie I watched, which I thought was great and I didn't expect to like, was Saturday Night from 2024. That's again streaming on Netflix as well. And the pacing in this movie and the stress induction is really kind of masterful. It's really impressive. Basically, this is the story of the first episode of Saturday Night Live going to air. And as you can imagine, it's told through the perspective of Lorne Michaels, played by Gabrielle LaBelle in this. Gabrielle LaBelle. Rachel Sennott plays his wife. Corey Michael Smith plays Chevy Chase. Ella Hunt plays Gilda Radner. Dylan O'Brien plays Dan Aykroyd. Emily Farron plays Lorraine Newman. Matt Wood plays John Belushi. Lamorne Morris plays Garrett Morris. Are they related? There's no way. There's no way they're related. But he plays a really good Garrett Morris. And then basically all the people that you would imagine who are characters that you know, named people now who were in the first episode of Saturday Night Live are portrayed in this. And if you focus on whether or not they look or act like the characters in real life, like the people in real life, you might get bogged down a little bit with it. But this is just kind of a chaotic, psychopathic look at the way this show, this iconic show, came to be, and how it almost did not come to be because of just how chaotic it was. Angry Otter says, a very believable John Belushi. He did look a lot like him. I think a number of them do pretty good. There's a guy that does Billy Crystal in this too. Let me see if they can find out who is Nicholas Braun. Nicholas Braun does Andy Kaufman, and he also does Jim Henson. Jim Henson, who I don't think even made it to the movie or into the actual episode or whatever, but he plays both of those characters in this, and he's really good. Finn Wolfhard. Where is Milton Berle? J.K. Simmons plays Milton Berle. Willem Dafoe plays David Tebbutt, who's like the lead of NBC, the head of NBC. Okay, here it is. Nicholas Podany plays Billy Crystal, and his Billy Crystal is really good. Like, I was looking away when he was first on scene, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be Billy Crystal. I look up, and it kind of looks like a young Billy Crystal, but his cadence is perfect. So there's a mixed bag of, I guess, impressions or iterations of these like famous comedians. None of that really bothered me because the pacing of this and like the idea that they were set up to fail was so freaking good. This is directed by Jason Reitman, who I've heard is kind of a piece of shit. I don't know really anything about him specifically that makes that the case, but he directed Totally Up in the Air, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Juno, Thank You for Smoking, Young Adult. I don't know anything about him and like his personal life or whatever, but this was a pretty damn good movie, Saturday Night. And for an iconic show like that that's been running for, I don't know how long it's been now, 50 years maybe, something like that. It was 1975 was the first episode. October 11th, 1975. So I guess that's 35. Yeah, next year will be 50 years. That's wild. So I guess this year will be 50 years. So anyways, that's Saturday night. It's streaming on Netflix, and that is worth your time. Anything else, fellas? Joseph, Tyler? No? Anybody? See if I have any, Joseph.
Oh, perfect timing. You're here.
Yes, I am here, and you're not here. That's okay. Anyways, I appreciate Angry Otter for being in the chat. Thanks for everybody who is listening or watching this after the fact, not live. If you want to join us live, 12:30 every Saturday. It's a lot of fun. Normally, it's a lot more activity than this. It's Joseph and Tyler, the three of us together. And, we're very responsive to the chat. We're interactive with the listeners. We love the people who spend the time to listen to us. It means a lot. It makes it feel like it's worth it doing all this, for the last 5 years. So I really, really, really appreciate it. And then, of course, thank you to our cool-ass yard duties over on Patreon. That's Javier, Heather, Michael, Steven, and Chris. And if you want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/middleclassfilmclass, or just watch or listen to everything on YouTube. That helps too. So thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. It really means a lot. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on for the solo episode. 2 episodes. Follow us next week as we review The Killing of a Sacred Deer, Tyler's pick from the Wheel of Destiny, in our ongoing quest to clear off the Wheel of Destiny before our big format change. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/MCFC podcast, and send us an email, mcfcpodcast@gmail.com. And follow us on TikTok and Instagram and pretty much everywhere else at Middle Class Film Class, and leave us a voicemail, 209-283-1716. See you next time.
Class dismissed.
I gotta get out of here.
The bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.
You're free to go.
See you next week.
See you later. See you later.
That's a wrap.
Great show.